The waitress poured coffee on the man's face, but she didn't know he owned the restaurant. It was a busy morning at Sunny's Cafe, a popular breakfast spot renowned for its lively atmosphere and swift service. The clinking of cutlery, the aroma of sizzling bacon, and the chatter of customers filled the air. Wait staff weaved through tables with trays balanced precariously, their movements quick and deliberate. Among them was Karen, a veteran waitress known for her sharp tongue and impatience, especially on chaotic mornings like this. Her shift had started poorly, spilled orders, late arrivals, and a broken coffee machine. Each setback chipped away at her composure, leaving her more irritable by the second. Before we dive into this story, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest stories. Now, let's get started. In the corner, David Carter quietly sat at a small table. A tall black man dressed in a plain jacket and jeans, he didn't seem to fit the typical profile of the cafe's bustling morning crowd. Karen noticed him and frowned slightly. "What's he doing here?" she thought, her gaze lingering for a moment. To her, he seemed out of place, a distraction in her already hectic morning. Unbeknownst to anyone, David was the cafe's new owner. He had chosen to remain incognito, blending in to observe how both staff and customers were treated on a typical day. Karen moved briskly toward David's table, balancing a coffee pot in one hand and a look of exasperation on her face. Without making eye contact, she stopped short and muttered, "Coffee?" Her tone was sharp, almost dismissive. "Yes, please," David replied politely, offering her a warm smile. Karen barely acknowledged him, pouring the coffee with such haste that several drops spilled onto the table. She didn't apologize. Instead, she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving David to clean the mess with a napkin. Across the room, Karen's demeanor shifted. She chatted with other customers, laughing and exchanging pleasantries. Her tone was lighter, her smile warmer. To them, she offered complimentary coffee refills with effortless grace. David noticed the stark contrast. "It's not about the coffee," he thought. "It's about respect." Minutes later, David politely raised his hand to signal for more coffee. Karen saw him but took her time. When she finally approached, she sighed audibly, her frustration evident. "More coffee?" she asked flatly, as though it was a chore. David nodded. "If it's not too much trouble," he said, his tone calm. Karen's eyes narrowed. This time, she tipped the pot carelessly, spilling hot coffee onto David's lap and splashing his hand. He winced but maintained his composure. "Oops," Karen said with a smirk. "Guess you weren't paying attention." The cafe fell silent. Nearby customers whispered among themselves, their glances darting toward David. But no one intervened. David looked up at Karen, his expression steady, revealing neither anger nor pain. David winced as the scalding coffee seeped through his trousers and burned his hand. He quickly grabbed a napkin to wipe the spill, his movements calm and controlled despite the discomfort. His composure contrasted starkly with Karen's smug expression as she stood there, arms crossed, watching him struggle. "Do you have a towel I could use?" David asked, his voice steady but firm. Karen shrugged nonchalantly. "We're out," she said flatly, already turning away. The cafe buzzed softly with murmurs as nearby customers whispered among themselves. Some glanced toward David with sympathy, while others simply looked away, unsure of what to do. Yet no one spoke up. David felt the sting of the coffee on his skin and the weight of the silence around him. He could have easily revealed who he was at that moment, but he chose not to. Instead, he sat back in his chair, his eyes following Karen as she moved on to another table, her attitude completely transformed. She smiled warmly at a group of customers, her laughter filling the room, a sharp contrast to her coldness toward him. David's mind raced. "This isn't just about me. How many others has she treated this way?" he thought. He took a deep breath, determined to let the moment pass. His purpose wasn't to confront Karen just yet. It was to observe, to see how far this mistreatment would go. Reaching for his phone, David opened the Notes app and jotted down details about the interaction. His calm demeanor masked a growing resolve. Change starts with understanding, he reminded himself. After finishing his coffee, David calmly stood up and walked toward the counter. His movements were deliberate, his expression unreadable. Behind the counter stood Tom Mitchell, the cafe's manager, busy checking orders on a clipboard. "Excuse me," David began, his voice polite but firm. Tom glanced up, offering a cursory, dismissive nod. "Everything okay, sir?" he asked, clearly distracted. "Actually, I think we need to talk," David replied, pulling out his phone. With a few swipes, he opened a digital file and handed it to Tom. The manager's casual demeanor shifted the moment his eyes landed on the document. The legal deed to Sonny's Cafe, with David Carter's name clearly printed as the new owner. Tom's face went pale. You're Mr. Carter?" he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "That's correct," David said evenly, his gaze unwavering. "Now, I need to understand why your staff, specifically Karen, believes it's acceptable to treat certain customers the way I was treated today." Tom's eyes darted nervously toward Karen, who was still tending tables, oblivious to what was unfolding. "Mr. Carter, I didn't know you were coming," Tom began, fumbling for an excuse. David raised a hand to stop him. "That's the point. I didn't want anyone to know. I needed to see how things really operate here. And now I have." At that moment, Karen approached the counter, her usual smugness evident. "What's going on?" she asked, her eyes shifting between David and Tom. Tom swallowed hard. "Karen, meet Mr. David Carter. He's the new owner of Sonny's Cafe." Karen froze, her expression quickly morphing from confusion to dread. Her smirk vanished as the weight of realization hit her. "You," she whispered, her voice trembling. David met her gaze, his tone calm but resolute. "Yes. I'm the man you just poured coffee on." Karen's face turned pale as David's words sank in. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Instead, she looked at Tom, silently pleading for support. The manager avoided her gaze, his expression heavy with disapproval. David kept his tone calm but resolute as he spoke. "This isn't just about a spilled cup of coffee, Karen. It's about respect, or rather, the lack of it. You saw me sitting alone, and you decided I wasn't worth your courtesy or professionalism. You didn't see a customer, you saw an assumption." Karen stammered. I didn't mean." "But you did," David interjected firmly. "You made a choice. And choices have consequences." The cafe had grown silent, every pair of eyes now focused on the counter. Some customers shifted uncomfortably in their seats, while others nodded subtly, recognizing the truth in David's words. Turning to Tom, David's expression hardened. "Effective immediately, Karen is to be removed from the floor. This behavior has no place here." Karen's eyes filled with tears, her voice barely audible as she whispered, "I'm sorry." David didn't waver. "Sorry doesn't undo what's already been done. My hope is that you'll take this as an opportunity to reflect and grow, but your time here is over." He paused, then addressed the staff and customers around him. "Let this be a reminder. Sonny's Cafe is a place where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. No exceptions." The room buzzed softly as his words settled. Karen walked away quietly, her head down, while Tom nodded firmly and assured David, "It will never happen again." David's gaze lingered for a moment, his resolve unwavering. Change begins now, he thought. A week had passed since the incident, and Sonny's Cafe was no longer the same. The air buzzed with a renewed sense of purpose, as though the cafe itself had shed a heavy layer of tension. David Carter had wasted no time in implementing sweeping changes, determined to make the cafe a place where respect and inclusivity were not just ideals but everyday practices. The transformation began with a mandatory staff meeting, held early one morning before the cafe opened. David stood at the front, his tone calm but resolute. "This is more than a cafe," he said, addressing his employees. "We're not just serving food here. We're serving experiences. And every customer, no matter who they are, deserves to leave this place feeling valued." The staff listened in silence, their expressions ranging from curiosity to quiet guilt. Tom Mitchell, the manager, looked particularly thoughtful as David continued. "We all carry biases," David said. "But it's our responsibility to recognize them, challenge them, and ensure they don't affect how we treat others." David unveiled a series of new policies and training programs designed to foster empathy, inclusivity, and accountability. Staff members participated in workshops that included role-playing exercises and open discussions about unconscious bias. "It's uncomfortable at times," Maria, a waitress, admitted during one session. "But it's also necessary. I'm learning so much about the ways I can do better." Tom, too, found the changes impactful. "I didn't realize how much I overlooked," he confessed during a team discussion. "I wasn't paying attention to the small things that can make a big difference. This has been a wake-up call for me." Over the following weeks, the effects of these efforts became evident. Customers who had once felt invisible were now greeted with warm smiles and genuine enthusiasm. Maria, who had once been hesitant to speak up, became known for her cheerful service and welcoming demeanor. The cafe's reputation soared, drawing in a more diverse crowd who appreciated the inclusive and friendly atmosphere. One sunny afternoon, David sat at his usual corner table, quietly observing the bustling cafe. The energy was different now, lighter, more joyful. He watched as Maria welcomed a family with young children, kneeling to their level to take their order with a bright smile. At another table, Tom helped an elderly customer carry her tray, his gestures kind and unhurried. David felt a deep sense of satisfaction. "This is what Sunny's Cafe was always meant to be," he thought. "A place where everyone feels at home." As he sipped his coffee, his gaze fell on a new sign hanging near the entrance. It read, "At Sunny's Cafe, respect isn't optional. It's the standard." The message was simple but powerful, a testament to how far the cafe had come in such a short time. Later that day, a young couple hesitantly walked through the door, their uncertain expressions suggesting they were new to the area. David noticed them immediately and waved them over. "Welcome to Sunny's Cafe," he said warmly. "First time here?" The couple nodded, their tension easing as they sat down. Maria approached with her usual enthusiasm. "Hi there! What can I get started for you today?" she asked, her tone cheerful and inviting. David watched the interaction with pride, knowing that his efforts had not only changed a workplace but also touched lives. The cafe had become more than a business. It was now a symbol of hope and unity, a reminder that even small changes can lead to big transformations. Sunny's Cafe had transformed into more than just a business. It had become a symbol of respect, unity, and the power of change. David's journey reminded everyone that small actions, whether kind or dismissive, can ripple far beyond the moment. As you reflect on this story, ask yourself, how do your daily interactions impact others? Would you stand up for what's right if you were a bystander? Thank you for joining us in exploring this journey of transformation. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories that inspire change, challenge perspectives, and celebrate humanity. Together, we can make the world a kinder place, one story at a time.